Today I'm ranking 5 most hated and 5 most loved MCU projects. Before we start, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications for more videos like this. Let's kick things off with one of the most celebrated MCU movies ever made, Spider-Man: No Way Home. Here's why people loved it. For years, fans were missing Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield. People grew up with those Spider-Men, and when the MCU started doing its own thing with Tom Holland, there was always this wish in the back of everyone's mind. What if we could see all three together? And then it actually happened. Seeing Tobey, Andrew, and Tom all on screen at the same time felt unreal, like genuinely unreal. Fans couldn't believe what they were watching. On top of that, we got the classic villains coming back. Green Goblin, Doc Ock, Electro, Sandman, and the Lizard. It was like every Spider-Man era collided in one movie. But what really made this movie hit different was the emotional weight. Peter actually pays a real price at the end. Aunt May dies, and that scene destroyed people. The final swing through New York with everyone forgetting who Peter is, that's iconic. People online were saying this felt like a once-in-a-lifetime theater experience. The reactions in cinemas were insane. People screaming, crying, completely losing their minds. Now there's even a rumor floating around that Tobey might show up in Avengers Doomsday. That's not confirmed at all, just fan speculation, but the fact people are still hoping for it shows how much love there is. Some folks did say the plot relied too much on nostalgia, and that's fair, but honestly most fans didn't care. Speaking of movies that didn't quite land for everyone, let's talk about one that left a lot of fans disappointed. Here's why people didn't love Captain America: Brave New World. After Steve Rogers, a lot of fans feel like the Captain America title is really hard to carry. Steve was the heart of the Avengers, he was that guy. And while Sam Wilson is a great character, many fans just don't feel like he's the one to take over that shield. There's this idea floating around in the fandom that even the Russo brothers are aware of this problem. Some people believe that's exactly why they're planning to bring Steve Rogers back for Avengers Doomsday. Now I have to be super clear here, that's all speculation and fan talk. Nothing is confirmed. But the fact that people are already hoping for Steve to return kind of says a lot about how this movie was received by the fan base. Fans wanted a huge legacy moment. They wanted something epic that proved Sam could stand on his own as Captain America. Instead, it felt smaller, safer, like Marvel was playing it way too careful. The story just didn't feel as big as people expected from a Captain America movie. People online were saying things like this should have been the moment Sam became legendary, but instead it felt like just another forgettable movie. Now to be fair, some viewers actually enjoyed the more grounded approach. Not every Captain America movie needs to be some giant world-ending event. Some people genuinely like the street-level, more personal stories. But for a lot of the fan base, this one just didn't hit the way they hoped it would. Alright, let's swing back to something that definitely hit. Actually, not just hit. These movies broke records and made grown adults cry in theaters around the world. Here's why people absolutely loved Infinity War and Endgame. Many fans call these the best MCU movies of all time. And honestly, it's really hard to argue with that. These movies were the payoff of over 10 years of storytelling. Since 2008, Marvel had been building something huge, and these two movies were the reward for everyone who stuck around. Every hero finally meeting and teaming up, characters who had never shared a scene before suddenly fighting side by side. It was everything fans had been waiting for. And then there's Thanos. This guy felt like a real threat, not just some forgettable villain who shows up and loses at the end. Thanos actually won in Infinity War. He snapped half the universe away and walked off into the sunset. That alone was completely insane. The iconic moments in these movies are endless. The Titan fight where Iron Man, Spider-Man, Doctor Strange, and the Guardians go up against Thanos, the Wakanda battle. The portals scene where everyone comes back and Cap finally says Avengers assemble.
Assemble.
Cap lifting Mjolnir and proving he was always worthy. And of course, I am Iron Man.
Iron Man.
Just thinking about Iron Man's death still hits hard. That scene made grown adults openly cry in theaters around the world. People online were saying these movies felt like the end of an era, and they were absolutely right. Now some people think Endgame had pacing issues, especially during the middle section, and that's a fair point. But overall, the emotional impact was massive. Almost nothing in the MCU has topped this yet. But then we have movies that are basically the complete opposite experience. Let's talk about one that a lot of fans wish they could just skip entirely. Here's why a lot of people didn't connect with the Marvels. This movie came out at a really rough time for Marvel. The MCU was already feeling messy, and some fans were starting to check out completely. This movie had a skippable feeling right from the start. A lot of viewers felt like they needed to do homework before even watching it. Like, did you watch Ms. Marvel on Disney Plus? Did you watch WandaVision? Did you remember everything from the first Captain Marvel movie? It felt like there was a whole checklist just to understand what was going on in this film. And then the main concept of the movie, the power switching thing, felt kind of chaotic to follow. Carol, Kamala, and Monica switching places every time they used their powers was supposed to be fun and creative, but for some viewers it just made the action scenes confusing and hard to follow properly. Online, this movie became an easy target for criticism. It got blamed for the whole MCU decline, which honestly isn't completely fair, but that's just how the internet works sometimes. People were saying stuff like, "This is proof Marvel has totally lost its way." Now, to be fair, some people still had genuine fun with it. The three leads have pretty good chemistry, and there are some genuinely funny moments sprinkled throughout. It's definitely not the worst thing ever made, but it didn't land for the majority of viewers, and that's just the honest truth. Okay, let's flip it back to something that made fans go absolutely wild. Something that felt like a celebration of everything we've loved about Marvel for decades. Here's why people love Deadpool and Wolverine. First of all, Hugh Jackman coming back as Wolverine. That alone was enough to get everyone hyped beyond belief. After Logan, most of us thought we'd never see him in the claws again. And then boom, he's back. Combine that with Deadpool, who is already a massive fan favorite, and you've got a recipe for something truly special. This movie was funny, hype, violent, and absolutely packed with fan service. And I mean fan service in the best possible way. Old Marvel and X-Men characters making cameos left and right. We got Blade showing up. We got characters that felt like a farewell to the old Fox era of Marvel movies. It was like Marvel saying goodbye and hello at the exact same time. This really felt like X-Men officially entering the MCU, and fans were completely here for it. There are some specific moments that absolutely need to be mentioned. The TVA scenes where Deadpool is literally watching Marvel history like he's scrolling through a streaming menu. That was hilarious. There's also that moment where Thor shows up and Deadpool spoils something major. Classic Deadpool behavior right there. And we can't forget Cable's device letting Deadpool jump between universes. That's exactly how he ends up in Earth 616, meeting Happy Hogan. That scene basically confirmed Deadpool is now fully part of the main MCU timeline going forward. People online were losing their minds saying this is exactly how you bring a character into the MCU properly. Now, some folks said it relied too much on cameos and nostalgia bait, but honestly, most fans really didn't care. The vibes were absolutely immaculate. Alright, now let's talk about a movie that had the complete opposite effect. One where the vibes went totally off the rails. Here's why people had serious problems with Thor Love and Thunder. After Thor Ragnarok, fans were excited for more funny Thor content, but Love and Thunder took the comedy and cranked it way too far. The jokes felt completely out of control. Thor didn't feel like a hero anymore. He felt like a clown making jokes every 5 seconds. Serious moments kept getting ruined by unnecessary humor. Like you'd have something emotional happening and then a random joke would just completely kill the mood. It was really hard to stay invested in anything. And then there's Gore the God Butcher. Christian Bale played him, and let's be real, the acting was genuinely great, but the character felt completely wasted. Gore should have been absolutely terrifying. The concept of a guy hunting down and killing gods is genuinely scary stuff, but the movie couldn't commit to that darker tone at all. There's an opinion out there that this movie should have been directed by Sam Raimi, the guy who did Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. That movie was allowed to be dark, creepy, and intense when it needed to be. Love and Thunder desperately needed that same kind of energy. Instead, it kept pulling back whenever things got too serious. Even the emotional ending with Thor adopting Love didn't hit as hard as it should have because the tone kept breaking throughout the entire movie. People online were saying they loved Ragnarok Thor, but this version went way too far in the comedy direction. Now, some people still had fun with it. Not everything needs to be dark and super serious all the time, but for a lot of fans, this one seriously missed the mark. Speaking of Ragnarok though, let's talk about exactly why that movie actually worked so well. Here's why people loved Thor Ragnarok. This movie genuinely saved the character of Thor. Before this movie, the Thor films were kind of the weak link of the entire MCU. The first two weren't necessarily bad, but they definitely weren't great either. And then Taika Waititi came in and completely reinvented absolutely everything about the character. The story is strong and genuinely fun from start to finish. Hela as the villain is absolutely fantastic. Cate Blanchett completely crushed that role. She's powerful, intimidating, and looks incredible doing it all. The fact that she destroys Asgard and forces Thor to basically become a refugee for his people is actually pretty heavy stuff when you think about it, and it connects directly into Infinity War, which gives the whole story even more weight and importance. Then there's Sakaar. The whole Gladiator Planet section with the Grandmaster and Hulk fighting Thor is just pure entertainment from beginning to end. The visuals are amazing, the pacing is super tight, and everything just works together perfectly. The comedy in this movie feels balanced. That's the really big difference between Ragnarok and Love and Thunder. In Ragnarok, the jokes land without killing the emotional moments. Thor is funny, but he's still a hero you can take seriously. You still feel the stakes when it actually matters. People online were saying Ragnarok is easily top 5 MCU material, and honestly, a lot of people still completely stand by that statement today. Now, some folks feel like it went too light on the Asgard destruction, and that's fair criticism. But overall, this movie proved you can reinvent a character without losing what makes them special. Alright, now let's go to a movie that tried something really different but ended up confusing most of the audience. Here's why Eternals didn't work for a lot of people. This movie has way too many characters. That's the first major problem right there. There are like 10 main characters, and the movie tries to develop all of them in one single film. It's just way too much to handle. You barely get time to connect with anyone before the movie moves on to the next person and their whole backstory, and the pacing definitely doesn't help matters. This movie is slow, really slow. For an MCU film, it feels more like an art house project than a superhero blockbuster. That's not necessarily bad on its own, but it's definitely not what most people came to see from a Marvel movie. The film also feels strangely separate from the rest of the MCU. Like, a giant celestial is literally sticking out of the ocean by the end of the movie. That's a massive world-changing event that everyone on Earth would notice. And then in other MCU projects after this, nobody even mentions it. Fans were constantly asking, how does nobody bring up the giant dead space god just chilling in the ocean? It just felt completely disconnected from everything else happening in the universe. People online were saying this movie felt like it belonged in a completely different franchise entirely. Now, here's the counterpoint. The visuals are genuinely beautiful throughout the whole film. The movie tries something different, and that definitely takes guts from a studio like Marvel. Some people genuinely appreciated the slower, more thoughtful tone, but for the majority of viewers, it just didn't land the way Marvel really hoped it would. Alright, let's switch back to something that absolutely did land perfectly. Something that took a villain and turned him into one of the most beloved characters in the entire MCU. Here's why people loved Loki. This series is genuinely high quality across the entire board. The acting is incredible, the writing is sharp and clever, the style is completely unique, and the music, absolute chef's kiss. Everything about this show just feels elevated compared to a lot of other Disney Plus content we've gotten. But the real magic here is Loki's complete character journey. This guy started as a straight up villain. He was literally the main bad guy in the first Avengers movie. And over the years, we slowly watched him change bit by bit. But this show takes it to a completely different level. Loki goes from being a selfish trickster who only cares about himself to becoming genuinely and truly heroic. And by the end of season 2, he literally becomes a time god. Some people call him the god of stories now. He sits at the absolute center of the timeline, holding everything together forever. That's a massive glow up for a character who started out just wanting a throne. The show also might matter a lot for Doomsday going forward. The whole TVA and multiverse stuff seems like it's definitely building towards something really big, and Loki is sitting right at the center of all of it. People online were saying this is easily the best Disney Plus Marvel show by far, and honestly, it's really hard to disagree with that take. If you haven't watched it yet, you should 100% watch it immediately. It's absolutely worth your time. Now, some people felt the second season was a bit slower, and that's a fair point to make, but the ending hits so incredibly hard that most fans completely forgive any pacing issues. Alright, now we end with a show that split the fandom completely down the middle. And when I say split, I mean people had really strong opinions about this one. Here's why a lot of people had problems with She-Hulk Attorney at Law. This show felt like it didn't take the MCU seriously at all. The whole series had this vibe of laughing at its own universe instead of actually being a real part of it. And look, comedy in Marvel is totally fine. We've seen it work really well before, but this felt completely different from anything we'd gotten. People expected superhero action, and instead got courtroom comedy with a heavy side of meta jokes constantly. The tone just didn't match what a lot of fans actually wanted to see. And then there's that scene. You absolutely know the one I'm talking about. She-Hulk twerking with Megan Thee Stallion in her office. Listen, I get what they were going for with that moment. It was supposed to be fun and silly and relatable, but for a lot of viewers, it was just super cringe to watch. Like, this is an official MCU show and we're sitting here watching a superhero twerk on screen. People online were absolutely roasting this clip for weeks after it dropped. It became a meme for all the wrong reasons. But the biggest issue for a lot of fans was how the show seemed to mock its own audience. The finale literally breaks the Disney Plus menu. She-Hulk walks completely out of her own show, meets a robot version of Kevin Feige,
Jennifer,
Kevin?
and basically just rewrites the entire ending herself. It was supposed to be clever and meta and self-aware, but for many viewers, it felt like the show was straight up making fun of people who actually care about the MCU and its stories. People online were saying this show went way too far with all the fourth wall breaks. Now, to be completely fair, some people absolutely loved this whole approach. The self-aware, not taking itself seriously thing really worked for them. And She-Hulk as a character has always been super meta in the comic, so it's actually accurate. But for a large portion of the fan base, this show just didn't land at all. It became one of the most divisive things Marvel has ever put out. And honestly, that's really saying something for a studio that's been around this long. If I forgot a movie you think should be on this list, tell me in the comments. And if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. See you in the next one.